Hello everyone watching and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. I'm Bird's Eye View Politics, and I take a bird's eye view look at geopolitical affairs, including recently the war in Ukraine. So, quite a bit has happened since I last made a video. When I last made a video, Ukraine was starting to make gains and seemed on the verge of taking Lyman, and actually on the same day as I released that video, they were able to successfully take Lyman, which was of course big news. A very large city in northern Donetsk, the largest city remaining under Russian control in northern Donetsk, as well as opening the pathway towards northern Luhansk, as with the capture of Kupiansk and Kyivshivka. So all three of these cities being captured is pretty good for Ukraine, not only because obviously capturing territory that's claimed by Russia is obviously a win for Ukraine, but also there are very few cities standing in the way of a Ukrainian advance into northern Luhansk. As I've said in previous videos, northern Luhansk is very rural compared to southern Luhansk and southern Donetsk, which are much more industrialized and urbanized. But that's not the only theater of war in the conflict that we currently see major moves being made. We also saw in the Kherson Oblast, we saw that not only did the Russians, of course, succeed at the referendum, but then Ukraine almost immediately counterattacked, taking much of northeastern Kherson Oblast. And I'd been saying for weeks at this point that Ukraine was probably about to make a major attack into the northern Kherson Oblast, not only because it seemed they had stalled their offensive in southern Kherson, but also because we had, of course, news that many Russian troops were pulling out of the west bank of the Dnieper River. Of course, the west bank is where this whole area was. In order for Ukraine to take that back, they would have had to go through the Russian forces and block the Russian forces still there pulling out. So that's obviously another win for Ukraine, but that wasn't even the only win because we had yet more advances, and this is probably where the next Ukrainian advance will come. Since roughly the 22nd of March, the Russians have made zero advances in, I guess, southern or central Donetsk, and the same can be said for the Ukrainians. It's essentially been a standstill. There's been fighting for a few towns. However, we've increasingly had bombings in Donetsk itself, the major city of the entire Donbass region, and this is important. And that's because if there are seriously bombings and major fires being reported throughout Donetsk immediately after the referendum, not only does it mean that Ukraine will continue to commit to essentially kicking the Russians out of Ukrainian territory, but it also means that Ukraine is committed to going beyond the frontiers of the post-2014 conflict. This is because Donetsk had previously been controlled by Russian separatists since roughly 2014 all the way until 2022, meaning that when Russia invaded, Russia already controlled Donetsk from the first day of the conflict. And this has huge implications for other areas, not only Luhansk to the east, but also in Crimea to the south, which means that Ukraine could potentially seek to take back control over Crimea and has said that they will do so. So, what do you think will happen next? Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment what you think will happen down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.